I just removed the tape and the weight and the wax paper. Now I'm going to take away my bow setting tool here, this piece of cardboard, uh, and then we will begin with installing the spine. Now, what I do when I remove this is I hold down the tips of the bow and lift up on the back side of this piece of cardboard and pull it away, because sometimes the glue will stick to the cardboard a little bit and you don't want to have that lift off the bow off its position. Now to make to mount the spine, what I do is I use a toothpick and I raise up the bow away from the sail and slide the spine under it. Then I just freehand, but I try to get it straight. It's not always perfectly straight for sure, but I just put a bead of glue. This is the T8000 glue that really does a good job of bonding and is a great kite glue for almost any combination of materials. I have not found one material it does not bond well to yet. And you can buy it online, or you can probably buy it at a lot of stores. So I just went under the bow with this, the toothpicks holding it up. Now, while the glue is still wet, what I'm going to do is use use a finger on both ends of the spine and sort of press the spine to make it bend just a little bit. And when it does, I'm going to align it onto the spine line I drew, which has the glue on it. Now again, going to have to wait for this to dry, and I usually put a weight on it to make sure that it will uh, stay bonded well to the sail along its entire length. Now that the spine is dry, I'm going to use double-sided tape on this. I could use glue and or double-sided tape, and I've decided I'll use double-sided tape on this just to show you how it works. The glue I would just spread. I'm talking about the flap here that we're going to fold over. If I use double-sided tape, I'll put the tape on before I cut out the sail. If I use glue, I will cut out the sail first and then apply the glue to this flap and fold it over and press it down. Now the double-sided tape I use is called Signworld tape. I bought it on Amazon. It bonds very, very well, and it comes in a whole bunch of different widths. I think this might be 1 inch or maybe 3/4. So I'm just going to put this right here along the bow and the leading edge line right here. Press it down and do the same on the other side. Now I'm going to cut it out, and you can tell I can't see through this. Where this is translucent, it makes it easy to use the grid on the cutting mat and so on. But now with this tape, the backing prevents it. So I'll cut it out. What I decided to do with the tape is to remark it. I measured up here 3/8 of an inch and up here 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to cut it right along here. because I cannot see it and I don't want it to be sticky while I'm cutting it. So we now have the kite, but the flaps are still unfolded. So what we do is we peel off the backing of the tape and fold it over the bow along the leading edge line that we drew originally, or close to it. Now some of this will be on one side of the bow and some of it will be on, the majority will be on the other side of the bow. But pressing it down and making it very, very securely bonded is important with any tape, no matter what kind you use. You could use double-sided Scotch tape, or you could use glue like I typically do, but I just wanted to show a different way in case you're not really fond of using glue. Glue has a little bit of a stink to it, smell to it. This T8000 has very little. That's one thing I like about it. The other is it bonds really, really well. So now I have this done, and the kite needs to be have a bridle on it and a tension line, and then we'll trim, as you can see here, the edges or the ends of the wingtips are slightly overlapping, and we'll just trim that away. We're going to mark the holes. We need to mark. One of them is right here at the bridle, upper bridle connection. Right here. We're going to tie the bridle directly to the bow, and then we're going to put a drop of glue on it to hold it. And on the lower part, we're going to measure down 10.5 inches from the nose, right here, make a mark, and then we're going to measure down 15.25 inches right down here, make a mark. We're also going to make, these are for the bridle. I'm going to use a 4-point bridle. You don't have to. You could use a 3-point. Instead of using 2 connections here, use only 1. And if that's the case, just make it about 11 inches from the nose, which would put it about here for a 3-point bridle. Then we want to mark below the wingtip line, wherever you have your stop located, your thread, you want just below that, we're going to make a hole. We're going to melt a hole. And wherever you have your thread up here, right above it, we're going to make a hole. Now, when you make a hole in polyfilm, and actually almost any synthetic material, the best way to do it is with a hot cutter. Now, a hot cutter is just like a solder. This is a portable soldering iron, and it heats up fairly quickly, and it allows me to melt the polyfilm. And when the polyfilm melts, part of the melted plastic builds up around the edge of the hole that's melted, giving it more reinforcement. And that's why I melt them and not cut them. It really does add to the durability of the kite. Now, we don't need to make the bridle holes very large, but I put the bow away from it, and I just put that there, and then check it. See how the hole, if the hole needs to be a little larger, which this time it does, but not much. And the same over here. We'll do the tension line here, and the tension line holes will be here, and the bridle line will be here and here. Or if it's 3-point, it'll be here. So all my holes are melted. Takes very little time. Now we just tie bridle line and tension line, and we're done. Go out and have a good time flying the kite. Now there's one thing, if you're brand new to flying fighter kites, that I will tell you has really helped an awful lot of people. Help them overcome frustration that sometimes occurs when people are learning to fly fighter kites. And that is, cut up a plastic shopping bag into about 1 inch wide or 1.5 inch wide strips, tape them together, make about a 4-foot long piece of that plastic, tape it to the back tail section of the kite. The kite will have that 4-foot tail. It will slow down the speed of the kite. It will also mute the erratic behavior typical of a fighter kite and give you a good chance to learn some of the very fundamental behaviors of the kite. Once you're familiar with that and comfortable with it flying, cut the tail in half. Continue flying the kite and get familiar with how it now acts, because it'll be more active, it'll be a little faster. And then when you're comfortable with that, remove the tail. And that will really reduce the amount of frustration you might have otherwise in learning how to fly the kite. So now we'll tie the lines. I've made a video about how to tie a tension line that'll do a lot more for you by watching it than I can show you here, because my hands get in the way of the camera that would show you what exactly I do. But the video I made, I explain exactly everything that needs to be done, and that'll help you. And for the bridle, I use fishing line, braided Dacron fishing line. For the bridle, we use a piece of line that connects the 2 points on the bow right here with a loop. The thing you want to be sure to do is make sure that this loop does not extend to the nose. You want it to be a little bit away from the nose when it's tight. And I'll show you here in a second. So the bridle line goes through the front face of the kite, through the hole and around the bow, and then back out, and then you tie it to the bow. Before I tie it, I want to make sure that it gets up towards the nose, but not beyond the nose. If it does, it'll still fly, but very likely it'll get tangled. This part of the bridle will get tangled in the nose, and the kite will crash, and maybe repeatedly, causing more frustration that won't be really necessary if you pay attention in the beginning. So that's the reason. So here I'm just tying it. Any knot here will do, whatever will hold. And after we tie it, we're going to glue it anyway, so it's not going to be too critical. And then we cut another piece of line about well, on this one it'll be about 18 inches, I guess, or so. And we'll tie a loop in one end. This will be the lower leg of the bridle. And the loop is, about like this. I just use an overhand knot, make a loop. And then I just trim off the tail. Now with this loop, I'm going to put it under the line I just made on the upper bridle and poke the knot of the loop over the other line and through the loop I made, and just pull that through. This is a lark's head knot, and I'll tighten it there. And now I'm going to tie this end to the spine at this bridle connection point right here. Now, when you're making this line, you want to be sure that the line, when it's pulled out towards the wingtip, it does not go all the way to the wingtip. Again, the same reason that line will definitely get tangled in the wingtip if it is allowed to go there. It just seems to be the way of kites. So again, just tie this to the spine in with any kind of a knot that will work, because we're going to glue it to the spine afterwards to make sure it's secure and doesn't move along the spine while you're flying the kite, which would change your control of the kite. And you don't want that. You want to have control as much as possible, and the way to partly to do it is to make sure that the bridle is constant, not changing all the time while you're flying. Now the next piece of the bridle is the fourth leg, and it's another piece of line that's probably 15 inches or so. And again, I tie another loop in the end of it. And this line I attach to the first one I put on as the lower bridle right here. And I lark's head it on the same way. And now we have the fourth leg here. Now when the kite is ready to fly, it will be at about this angle where the nose will be a little bit above the table when the tail of the kite is on the table. So in that position, we want to tie this line to allow both of them to be snug when the kite is in the flying position. And the way we do that is we cut another piece of line, fairly short, maybe 6 inches or so. We fold it in half, tie an overhand knot, make a loop, and this is called the toe connection, or this is where your flying line attaches to your kite. Right here. So I will attach this to the first lower leg that we just put on the bridle. Now I will adjust this up and down because I can open up the knot here by pulling here, sliding this, and then I can lock it by opening it up here and lock it in position. So let's say this is about what I want. So now what I do is I just adjust this line so it's snug. Then I tie it. Now before I glue all of these, I trim off the tails. I don't need them to be that long, obviously. Now there is one other thing that we could do. It's optional. I often do this. I think it helps maintain a little bit more reliability in the kite, more repeatable uh, behavior when you're doing the same thing with the flying line over and over. And that is to tie the bow to the spine. And to do that, I would melt a couple holes in the sail and tie a line connecting them. You don't have to do it. Kite will fly fine without it, but you can also do it, and it may make a difference that you like. It may not, but it's something you can try. So now I'm going to put a dab of glue on each one of these to secure them. I'm going to use T8000 glue or super glue. Either one works. The very last thing we do before we fly the kite is to reinforce the nose and the tail, that these are the places where the kite gets an awful lot of abuse from the wind, and on the nose from crashes when that occurs. So I'm going to use black tape so you can see it, but packing tape or Scotch tape would work fine. What you want to do is to put a piece of tape across the nose area like this on the front side of the kite, and then I just cut at an angle here and here on the tape. The tape is sticky side up at this point, and then I just fold this over onto the back side and wrap it around the spine, and the same on the other side. Now for me, this is sufficient, but I would suggest if you're new and you might have a few more crashes than you expect, do the same thing doubled. On the tail, and again, this is from the wind fluttering the sail. It really gives the tail part of the sail and the spine a good workout, and sometimes it comes unglued there. So I just take a square piece or almost square piece of tape, put it diagonally onto the spine, wrap it around the spine, and bond it to the sail. And that really helps prevent that from happening. Now we are ready to have some fun.